Take a few moments to savor what you've done. Stare at it, be proud, call your mom, tell her you're an Android developer now. Because you've done a lot. There's a button and it actually does something. But of course, you want to see more than that. Go back to your Eclipse and our project. We'll add one more item to your screen. This time, we'll add a text box so that our users will have a way to input data into our application. Your text box can be found in the text field section. So you'll see it here. All of them are text boxes or text fields as Android likes to call them. The differences you see there are just the pre-formatting applied by the selection you pick from that particular list. For example, this third one is a password box. So in case you want to create password fields in your application, you make a login window, that's what you get. So that it automatically formats all inputs as passwords. We'll just need the simple text box, the one with ABC on it, and drag it to our screen. So I have one now. I'll just position it in an area that people can quickly see. Now it's on top of the label. I'll check my XML file. And we'll see that it got added here. You have edit text. That's our text field. It's edit text 1. We'll go back to our code. What we're trying to do here is when someone inputs a word or a phrase inside the box, I click the button, that word or phrase gets put inside my label. So I'll go back to my Java code. I'll save first so that my changes are reflected in the r.java file. So I'll go back to main. I already have some of the code for my button to work. So all I need to do now is modify this code so that I can also interact with my text field or edit text box. So similar to the text view, I need some way to connect to it. I'll put in edit text, name it as ET. Use find view by ID to get the list of controls available to me from the R file. So I should see it here. I see it, edit text 1. Don't forget the semicolon at the end because this is still a Java program. You'll notice the error come up again. I'll correct the error by getting the correct import. So now I don't have the error. This time, instead of setting the text to a phrase that I hard code, I'll put in the code so that the text comes from the text box itself. So TV, set text. Okay, we'll now call the edit text box. It's called ET right now. I'll get its text. So you'll see get text there. Again, make sure that you use IntelliSense to help you with whatever you're typing. If you're typing it correctly, more often than not, you will get the correct hint from IntelliSense. So I'll use get text. And just to make sure, I'll convert the text to a string so that it puts in the correct value. So pretty short and sweet. We just added a couple of lines. So again, this particular convention allows us to manipulate our controls or widgets from within our program. We tell Java that this is the object we need, text view. and this is the actual object on our screen. So you form a connection with what's on your XML file and the program itself. We do the same for edit text, so we can manipulate it. In this case, we're getting the value from edit text, ET, and putting it inside our text view control. So all is ready for this latest modification to our program. We'll do the same steps. Run the program again. If you haven't saved it yet, Eclipse reminds you to save your changes. You want to say yes. And once more, the console will show you that it's uploading and installing your file to the emulator. We'll wait a few minutes. You can check your emulator too. So when it goes blank like that, pretty much it's getting stuff installed on it. We'll wait a couple of seconds for it to finish the installation. And we should see the results of what we did to our code. The installation is a success, as indicated by my console, and it's now starting the activity. So now we have a text box appear, our original label, and our button. So I'll try to type something in. Since this emulator is 2.3, it's using the old style keyboard. You can use the keyboard on the right side, or you can use the default keyboard that pops up in case it's a full touchscreen phone. So I'll put in some text. And if you remember what I said, sometimes the emulator really has slow response time. So if you don't have a real device, this is what you put up with. So you can press escape on your keyboard to hide the on-screen keyboard, and I'll click on the button. And you can start rejoicing because what we have now is we're able to transfer the text box value to our label when we click our button. Hey, so once more, give yourself a big pat on the back because you've gone so far from the first time that you opened Eclipse to doing something interactive with your application. Now you're able to get user information, enter it into your application, and with the push of a button, actually change something in your app because of something that the user inputted. So what else can we do with this? Basically, you can start exploring other widgets, and they work the same way. If we go back to our application, so we know we can basically drag and drop widgets using the graphical layout. And what we've done so far, we put in a text box, we put in a label, and we have a button. If we want to edit some of the items there, we can go to the XML file and change the text here. Our button, of course, just says button right now. So I'll just fix that and put in something more descriptive of what it does. Click me. I'll save it. Go back to the graphical layout just to see if the changes I've made have been reflected on that actual screen. So now it says click me. I'll run my program one more time. Okay, whenever you run your program, if you noticed my screen, oops. So I tried to run my program while I'm here. You'll notice that it asks me how I want to run it again. Why is this popping up? Because I'm running, or it thinks that I'm trying to run mainscreen.xml. So that's one thing you have to take note of. If you're running your application, make sure that you're in main.java so that Eclipse does not get confused with what you want to do. If I go back to mainscreen.java and click on run, notice that it doesn't ask me anymore. It does the same thing that it usually does when we're running an application. So we'll just look at the result of this latest change and then see how it affects your application. So once again, it's installing. And nothing has happened to the emulator yet. If you want it to move faster, I suggest that you get a real device. And with that real device, testing actually becomes faster. So now it's starting the activity. You'll wait for the result on screen. Now that you see your app, again, we'll test it by putting some inputs. To dismiss your on-screen keyboard, you can press escape. You can press escape. My on-screen keyboard does not want to disappear. And when you press the button again, just like what we saw earlier, your text should change. Now, as we've seen so far, when we run the application, it actually installs it. So the last thing we'll look at for this portion, and sometimes this happens with the emulator, something crashes and it tells you that the application is no longer responding. So don't worry, that just means that something happened and it was forced to crash the application. So it goes back to your home page, just like a real Android device. Now when you click on the application tray, so in a real device, this gives you the shortcut to all your applications. We'll wait for it to respond. If you're looking at my screen right now, you'll see that the Hello World application is actually an installed app right now, and you can run it over and over again. So this is Hello World. It's now part of the application tray. This is the icon that I picked earlier to represent my application. And if I want to run it again, just like in a real phone, I just select it. And that should be enough to run it. So again, the problem with running the emulator, sometimes it does not respond as quickly as you want it to respond. Okay. So I have the app running now. I can click on Click Me. Although I don't have anything yet, it will actually cause an error because it does not have anything inside yet. Okay, now we've seen it become an app, and that's also the reason why every time you're creating an application, when you make a change, it's not enough to save it. For the emulator to pick up the changes that you made, you have to run it again. Running your project, clicking on run, means that you go through this entire process at the bottom. So a change was made, the application needs to get reinstalled on your emulator. Same as in real life, if your program upgrades, you get another version, like Angry Birds getting a new update, it changes the program, so they have to reinstall it. And that's what this particular procedure follows. So again, you've come a long way. Give yourself a pat on the back. You are now able to make apps in Android. You're able to add controls to your app. And you can make your apps interactive with the users. So give yourself a pat on the back. Tell your mom about it. Tell your girlfriend about it. You've just successfully completed a working Android application that the user can interact with. In the next few lessons, we'll look into something deeper and something that will be more practical for your application.